Alex Pereira. So I wanted to share this from my perspective. I got to participate. I'm working with ESPN, and I'm up top, got the little set studio, and they put our headphones on. Sometimes it's an IFB. This is a headset situation for those of you that watch the post show, and I'm working with Anthony Smith, working with Brett Okamoto. And we will go on as soon as UFC goes off the air. So when you're coming down the line, we get in position, we got our little shirts and suits, and we put our headsets on, make sure everything's working. Point is, I'm in a very good position when the post-fight celebrations come for Pereira. Second they go off the air, they come to us. Brett Okamoto teased me up first. He says, Chael, what did you think? And I said, Brett, I don't think he called out Adesanya. I never heard Pereira one time say, Izzy, Israel, Adesanya, Izzy, Adesanya, Israel, Adesanya. Any which way that you want to do it never came out of his mouth. In fact, I heard him say, Nebraska, Anthony. And I told Brett this, and Brett laughed. He thought I was trying to tag in Anthony Smith, who I'm working with, or maybe trying to bring Anthony into this moment, which is why Brett had chuckled, but I was being very sincere. And a little over a month ago, Pereira had gone publicly and challenged Lionheart. And as you looked into it just a little bit, in fact, Anthony Smith didn't even respond to the challenge because he didn't believe it was real. He thought somebody had taken over the social media controls of Pereira, or somewhere they had misquoted him. Because Anthony and Pereira have no heat, there was no backstory there. It looked as though Pereira's next match was lined up, and in front of everything else, Pereira's never called out anybody. Pereira doesn't build and add attention to fights that Pereira's paid to build and add attention for. I mean, I'm just sharing with you Anthony Smith's perspective, but also me being armed with this backstory. When I hear Nebraska, and it goes right back into Portuguese, and at some point I hear Anthony, it goes right back into Portuguese. But when they go to the interpreter has not very nice things to say and never says who we're saying them about. So again, Brett, myself, Anthony, we're in our own little world. We got these headsets, but we're on this channel where we're together. Nobody in the world can hear me except these two, and I can't hear anybody in the world but these two, just to give you perspective. And I hear Brett Okamoto say, who is he talking about? Brett was getting frustrated at all of the insults, at all of the barbs, at all of the trash talk, if you will, but they weren't being signed to anybody. And the interpreter then says, Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya goes on social media and he tells Alex Pereira to let it go. But he does it in a way that only Israel Adesanya can, where he takes a picture of Pereira unconscious wearing an Elsa wig, hairdo. Now, I happen to know about Elsa. She's from a movie called Frozen, and she sings the lead song, Let It Go. I know that because Halloween was a week ago, and my daughter was Elsa. So when Izzy puts out the meme of Pereira dressed as Elsa, I know what he's talking about. Let it go, let it go. I know exactly what this is about. They then finally do fade to black, roll the credits, and throw up to all of us, but not before Joe Rogan weighs in, the third person of this overly stacked interview, in a language that it's just not working. And Joe Rogan suggests a third name, which is Jamal Hill. So you got Pereira said Nebraska and Anthony. Now, whether that was a challenge or where he went, in all fairness, I don't know. But you have an interpreter that said, he said Israel Adesanya. He did not ever at any point say Israel or Adesanya, or even an abbreviation thereof. Izzy. No, never happened. And then you have Joe Rogan steer everybody back onto Main Street and say it's going to be Jamal Hill. Well, we all know that that's going to be Jamal Hill. Joe did the right thing. If you have one piece of information that is required, which is win. The story of Yuri Prohaska that has only been, it's never been told, but it's been speculated by one person, which is me. And the one piece that the Prochazka story was missing from way back in January when Jamal and Glover Teixeira stepped in there to contest this in the first place, the one piece that's missing is, when will Yuri be back? And we're finding ourselves in the same spot now with Jamal Hill. That is the correct answer. Of course, Jamal gets to return for the belt that he never lost. But to say that he's next, Jamal's next fight will be for the belt. Perfect statement. No disagreement. Sign the bottom, put that in the box. Jamal's next for Pereira cannot be signed off on until we have a time frame of when that's going to be. All of that gets juxtaposed with Adesanya, who says, I'm not going to fight until 2027, and it might not even be within this sport. And he, for some reason, gets some dust kicked in his eyes by his former opponent. And Izzy was forced to respond. I didn't know what was said, but I knew it wasn't that. Just what I told you guys that watched the post show is what I told my partners, Brett Okamoto and Anthony, in the moment. But wouldn't you know, a day later, and who turned out to be right? Me. Pereira had a very beautiful statement to Izzy. The whole reason I sit before you now is to attempt to correct this. As the largest voice in this space, even I cannot be larger to a more direct market than a post-fight interview. So I won't be able to unwind this, but I will do my best because Pereira doesn't deserve this. Pereira said very beautiful things about Izzy. He even made them very personal. Talked about himself and his problem and struggles with alcohol. Talked about he got off of alcohol and out of the bar and back into the gym and with his family because of one person, Israel Adesanya. He wasn't friends with him. Izzy didn't come down there and grab him by the bootstraps. Izzy went out and by example he led. And he did everything right. And he made himself a living. And Pereira wanted to copy him, but in the pursuit of copying him, even if it was done through jealousy, even if it was done through envy, it straightened his life out. This is what Pereira really said. That's a very powerful message. And it follows up by telling Izzy, you helped me when I had nothing. You were the boss. You had it all. And all you had to do was turn your back on me. And you'd never been caught doing it because nobody knew who I was. But that's not what you did. Now I am in a position to offer something. If you want that, and only if you think that that helps your situation currently and now, I will reserve a spot for you at UFC 300. That is so beautiful. That is poetry and that is sportsmanship. And that versus what we were told that he put down, he berated, and then he challenged Adesanya. Those are vastly different statements. Words matter. I can't go back in time, but I can do my best to correct what was said. And a challenge is very different than an offer. And a call out is very different than a shout out. And Pereira showed sportsmanship to an old nemesis. There's no point in fighting, guys. There is no point in fighting if you don't agree that the dispute is settled there. There's no point in fighting. I'm going to try to do this too, and you're going to try to do it to me, and diplomacy has failed. But we're not going to respect the results. If I win, then I want you to see it my way. But if you win, it hasn't changed anything. That's no good. It doesn't work. And it's not what happened here. And it was a very classy move by Pereira. I am going to pass. I don't want to see them fight again. I don't care for what belt. I don't care if it's UFC 100. I don't care if it's the 300th time. I'm good and I pass. But I should have been put in the position to be offered a pass by being given accurate information in the first place.